across the spectrum of issues. Where is the Democratic Party? Where's the party? Why aren't we standing up more firmly, more resolutely? Why aren't we calling this out? This is a concerted, coordinated effort. And yes, they're winning. They are. They have been. Let's acknowledge that. We need to stand up. Where's the counteroffensive?
Somebody said it. Responding to the impending end of Roe versus Wade, California Governor Gavin Newsom channeled the urgency of many that are feeling that the Democrats need to mount a more forceful response. There's no doubt people are fired up as Democrats raise $12 million in the 48 hours after Justice Alito's draft opinion was leaked. For many, this goes beyond just the assault on abortion rights. Legal experts have made clear it's a slippery slope from Alito's argument against Roe to the erosion of other rights, like marriage equality. Justice Alito argued that the right to abortion isn't protected by the Constitution, citing a previous court decision that due process rights must be, quote, deeply rooted in this nation's history. He made the exact same argument as his dissent in Obergefell, the Supreme Court decision in 2015 that legalized same-sex marriage. Alito said then, quote, it is beyond dispute that the right to same-sex marriage is beyond these rights. And of course, Republicans have explicitly linked the two issues. Their 2016 party platform, which they basically photocopied in 2020, calls for the appointment of conservative judges who will enable courts to repeal so-called activist decisions, including Roe, Obergefell, and Obamacare. With me now is Jim Obergefell. He was the lead plaintiff in the 2015 U.S. Supreme Court case, Obergefell versus Hodges, and is a Democratic candidate for the Ohio House of Representatives. Jim, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I don't get nervous often, but I consider you to be a bit of an American hero. I have so many friends whose lives were changed in a wonderful way because of your courage. So I'm extremely, extremely excited to talk to you this evening. I just want to start with this. People are hearing about this case now. Some Americans paid attention, some didn't. How did you get involved in the Supreme Court case that eventually made same-sex marriage legal and constitutionally protected in this country?
Well, thank you for having me on, Jason, and thank you for those kind words. You know, this wasn't something John and I had ever planned, my late husband, John. It just happened. You know, when the Supreme Court struck down the Defense of Marriage Act with their Windsor decision, I proposed. And John and I simply got married because we wanted to do that. We'd been together for so long. And it was just a series of events that we could have never planned or expected that resulted in us meeting a civil rights attorney, Al Gerhard Stein, who said, you have a problem. And that started our case in federal district court in Ohio and eventually ended up at the Supreme Court. So it wasn't planned, it wasn't dreamt of, it wasn't something we ever expected.
So after you saw the leaked Roe ruling like everybody else, I'm sure you became concerned. I'm sure you said, okay, what actions are next? I want to ask you this, as someone who knows that your life and your lifestyle decisions could be next after Roe, do you feel that political forces in America have been aggressive enough in coming to the aid of the LGBTQ community? Do you feel like the Democratic Party, the ACLU, do you feel like there's enough of a hue and cry right now, or are people still sort of backtracking and trying to figure out what to do?
You know, there's definitely concern out there, and I'm hearing a lot of organizations, a lot of people talking about marriage equality and the threat that that right faces in this country, as well as just general LGBTQ plus rights. But, you know, this decision, this Roe versus Wade leaked decision, it's a roadmap to take away so many rights that we have enjoyed in this nation. The right to marry, the right to have intimate relations with someone without that being illegal, the right to interracial marriage, a woman's right to control her body. There are so many rights that we stand to lose because of what this decision says. It simply is a roadmap to take us back, not to the 1950s, like people like to say, but in my mind, back to the 1850s, because this court seems to think that the Constitution can only be interpreted as of the time it was written. And that would take away all of the progress we have made in civil rights in this nation. And that should frighten everyone. So I'm hearing a lot of noise Could we be louder? Could we be doing other things? I think we can always say, yes, we could do more, but we are spreading the word, and we are raising our hands in the air to say we are at risk. We are in danger. Our rights are very close to being taken away.
Yeah, the whole idea that the court would make any ruling where it's like, well, these rights have to be grounded in the history of the Constitution. Look, the history of the Constitution doesn't say I'm supposed to be here. So let alone you should be able to live your life. So that's not really a good precedent. I want to talk about also just this sort of idea of how this has emboldened the right, again, to attack all sorts of different kinds of communities. You know, we just had a group of congressmen, this was reported in The Hill, GOP senators have called on the TV ratings board to help parents shield their kids from LGBTQ characters. Senators who signed the letter include Roger Marshall from Kansas, Mike Lee in Utah. They told the Kansas City Star that they're worried about TV shows like Danger Force and She-Ra. By the way, She-Ra was fantastic. They're angry about cartoons that actually show LGBTQ characters living peaceably with other people. Do you see this also leading to just overall comfort in bigots coming after any representation of the queer community in popular culture?
Oh, absolutely. It's happening with television characters, as you say, books in our school libraries, in our public libraries. And let me say this, that argument that seeing queer characters on television or reading about a queer character in a book will somehow harm a child or make that child change their sexual orientation or their gender identity, that is simply ridiculous. If things work that way, I would not be a gay man. I grew up seeing no gay men in pop culture. If it worked that way, I would be as straight as they come, because everything I saw, everything most of us saw for most of our lives was nothing but heterosexual. I would marry a woman, I would have children, and that was it. Well, clearly that did not groom me to be straight, because I wasn't born straight. I was born a gay man. And this argument that characters on television will harm children, just utterly ridiculous. This has become now the latest culture war, and the Republican Party, what do they stand for? What are they doing to make the lives better for anyone in this nation? All they can do is attack people who are different, people who do not believe the way they do, people who do not look the way they do. And honestly, Jason, that's one of the reasons I am running for office, because we need people in state legislatures who can take up the slack, because we are going to lose these rights. The Supreme Court is going to take them away, and it's going to be up to state legislatures to step in and say, this does not represent who we are as a people. This does not represent the values we say America stands for. Everyone, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, Black, white, immigrant, Asian, you name it, we are all part of we the people.
Look, if the Republican Party, right, if the Republican Party thinks that the Loud House and Disney are the greatest dangers to the American people, they don't deserve to stay in office. Jim, thank you so very much for joining us this evening, and best of luck in your campaign. Thank you so much.